I know I've been really bad with keeping you all updated in what I have recently read, what I'm currently reading, blah blah blah, but I finished reading this book last night and I keep thinking about it. It was just so good and I have to review it. At least I have to ramble and talk about it, and that's what we're gonna do right now. So today we're gonna review and talk about NOS4A2 by Joe Hill. I finally read a book by Joe Hill, you guys. So NOS4A2 by Joe Hill. This was originally published in 2013, I believe. So this is an oldie-ish, you could say. A bit about the author, Joe Hill, in case you have no idea who Joe Hill is. Joe Hill actually isn't real. It's a pen name. Well, the author is real. It's just a pen name for Joseph King. Now, King, pay attention to the last name, King. Does that sound familiar? You know, Stephen King, author of It, Carrie, Pet Sematary, The Shining, just to name a few. The giant king of horror, basically. The king of all books, you could say. This is Joseph Hill, and Joseph Hill is Stephen King's son. Did you know? Did you know? I didn't know for a long time until a couple of years ago, and then, you know, that's why I wanted to read Joe Hill for that reason alone, which is kind of sad. But I was just so interested to see if Joe Hill would be inspired by his father, if his writing would be similar in any way, shape, or form, influenced, you could say, and the answer is yes, but we'll get to that. Joe Hill is actually really well known in general. He's got a lot of other books. He has a graphic novel series that I really want to get into called Lock and Key, and I really want to buy the box set for the graphic novel series on Amazon, but I just cannot justify spending that money, so I'll crack someday. Hey, if anyone wants to buy it for me for Christmas, you're more than welcome to. But anyway, so he's also written some other novels. I think Horns, a Heart-Shaped Box, a short story collection. I'm sure there's a lot more. He's got quite a list of stuff, and you know, he's got a huge following, and I'm just at the beginning. This is also a TV series that is now on AMC, and I have not watched it. I really want to. I have high expectations, but I don't think I've heard the best things about the show. I'm gonna watch it anyway because this book was just so good. I just don't want the adaptation to ruin it. So if you have watched it, please let me know. Moving on from Joe Hill. Joe Hill, you're great, but let's talk about the story itself. NOS4A2 it's weird, guys. It's really weird. I think I would classify this as Christmas horror mystery thriller in a way, you could say. There's not a ton of Christmas elements, but the main, I guess, plot setting of this book is this place called Christmas Land. Our main big bad character of this story, his name is Charlie Manx, and Charlie Manx is this super old, over 100-year-old man, creature, vampire-esque thing. What he does, he's basically a serial killer. He has this old car that he uses to put children in, and he drives them on this highway, this path, to this magical, real but not real sort of place called Christmas Land, where everything is Christmas all the time and all the children are happy. He puts them in this car, and in the car it sucks the life out of these kids and turns them into vampires, and he gets that energy life source and it keeps him young. And Charles Manx is just crazy and insane, and he does this to so many kids. He's got a Christmas Land full of vampire children, and it is so disturbing. But his character in and of itself, he's such an interesting, weird, strange, witty character. So that's our big bad evil guy, right? And so in this weird twisted take on our world, Charlie Manx is kind of intertwined with this other character named Victoria, but we call her Vic. Now Vic is another person with like a weird ability with using an object, how Manx uses a car. Vic can use her bike to travel across this imaginary bridge and find lost objects. She can find anything that she wants, basically go anywhere that she wants that has something that she needs, a lost thing. We follow her throughout her life as she meets Charlie Minx, and they have a thing that goes between them, and then later on something happens to where they go up against each other. There's a big old shabacle. It is crazy and wild. There are other people with these weird sort of abilities, you could say, that use different objects in this book as well. It is so strange. It's hard to describe, but basically it's Vic against Charlie Minx, and there is sort of she has to save her son while also destroy this big bad guy while she's also being chased by the FBI. And it's just crazy. It's insane. And it is the weirdest, one of the weirdest stories I've ever read. But honestly, let's talk about the Stephen King and the influence. That's something that I want to talk about. That is both a pro and a con, you could say, because I love the little hints and the influences that you could see Joe Hill really took from his father. I can't imagine being Stephen King's kid and not being influenced by Stephen King, because that's just so hard. If I was Stephen King's child, I think anything I wrote would sort of bleed out something from Stephen King. Though I definitely see a lot of similarities with Joe Hill and Stephen King. I definitely see Joe Hill separate, and I can see himself kind of having his own thing while also being inspired by his father as well, if that makes sense. So the writing is similar but definitely different at the same time. I love how this book is so immersive and really draws you into all of these characters. So many characters throughout this book are, I don't want to say awful, but a lot of these characters are just not your typical heroes. They're real people that are just so messed up by their paths, by their past and by the things that they have gone through. And no one is perfect, and they're going to continue to make mistakes, but they're still trying, despite that, to go on and accomplish what they need to do. And then you have Charles, our big bad guy, who, I don't know, half the time in books the big bad guys are just bad guys for the sake of being bad guys, but Charles really does the things that he does because he thinks that it's the right thing to do, and his belief is so strong, and he really thinks that he's helping these kids that you just can't completely hate him for it. He's very good to these kids despite being terrible, and it's messed up and completely awful in the way that I just said that. But I mean, he's such a uniquely written character. He's kind of funny and witty at times, and can just crack a great joke, but he's awful at the same time. And so he's just so well written that he's just, I don't know, he's a great time. And though he's terrible and you want him to, you know, be defeated, such a well-written character. And so Joe Hill is just a really good writer of characters, and so I loved that whole aspect of the book. Another thing that I want to talk about that would be a pro is I love the themes that are thrown into this book. A lot of themes on family, on friendship, on self-sacrifice. There's just so many things going on in this, and I love it so much. Let's go a bit to cons. The one con I have with this book is also a Stephen King similarity, and that is this book is so long, okay? Joe Hill is definitely Stephen King's son in the fact that this book is basically 700 pages. I mean, come on, did it have to be this long? I definitely love the inner monologues and how we got to know our characters, but there are some moments that I feel should really be cut out of this book because some things did drag. I feel that this story in itself is such a moving story. You know, we have so many objects that are constantly being moved. This car is constantly going forward. Vic uses her bike that she's constantly going on. There's so many things going on left and right, and I feel that this is such a story that's just going through twists and turns, and it needs so much motion, and I feel that there was some parts that kind of just stand still and didn't go anywhere. But I enjoyed this so much that I flew through the book regardless, and it was so good. And NOS4A2 is really great. I highly recommend it for anyone that enjoys horror, mystery, thriller, any sort of like magical realistic thing going on. It's so good. You don't even have to really like horror to like this book because it's honestly not that scary. There's not that many grotesque sort of things. It's very odd and strange, and there are disturbing actual moments within this book, but I feel that the way it was written, it kind of diverted you from feeling too weird about it. So I don't know if that makes sense, but I really like this book, and I highly recommend it to everyone. If you have read it, let me know your thoughts, because I just enjoyed it so much. Now I just want to read more Joe Hill, and I want to read more Stephen King, and I just want to read a lot. I love when I read books like this because it just makes me want to go and just read so much more. And now that is my review of NOS4A2. What I'm currently reading, I want to share that with you, is Imaginary Friend by Stephen Chbosky. Yes, I bought Imaginary Friend and I'm about 70 pages in. I don't know if I want to review it, but you let me know if you want me to review Imaginary Friend, because that book is a chunker. It's another 700-800 page book, and I haven't heard the best things, but you know what? I really want to read it because I love Stephen Chbosky. Perks of Being a Wallflower is one of my favorites, and this one is a horror and it's weird, but I'm giving it a chance, so there's that. Anyway, I'm gonna go. It was great to see you. I hope you're doing good, and I will see you later. Bye.